Okay, so for tonight's stream, we are going to test out some, I guess, what's basically red-black midrange, except with green cards. It has a couple of different things that I'm curious about. Basically, I wanted to make a deck that tests out Elder Gargaroth and Riveteers Charm, because, not necessarily together, but each of those cards independently, I think, has potential. And I came to the conclusion that the most sensible place to play both of those was a red-black mid-range shell, because Fable of the Mirror Breaker plays really well with Elder Gargaroth. Riveteers Charm plays really well with Fatal Push and Thoughtseize. Both of those also play really well with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And then kind of just leads to having most of the deck already sort of accounted for. And then, well, if you're playing Fatal Push and Fable of the Mirror Breaker, you want Bloodtithe Harvester so you can enable Fatal Push more. And then, you want something that provides some kind of card advantage that also can be mana that gets you up to Elder Gargaroth, so Chandra kind of fits. And it's hard to find a 3-drop/2-drop that's more utilitarian than Bonecrusher Giant. It fits in a lot of different roles, and it plays well with Riveteers Charm, because Riveteers Charm wants your CMC to be low, and Stomp fills that role nicely. And then, I needed 2-drops, and, a lot of players are trying to get away with only playing one basic, so, I'm kind of interested in finding out what happens if you just go super overboard on Assassin's Trophy. This is an alternative to, Eliminate or Heartless Act, which I'm not super excited about. Normally I'm not, very high on Assassin's Trophy, but it's worth testing. And then I'm really not certain if I actually like Scavenging Ooze, but it is main deckable Graveyard Hate, and it's either, this or, I don't know, not Relic of Progenitus, but whatever that other 1-mana artifact is that exiles graveyards, and I guess this feels maybe better. It also gains life, so we don't care, or we don't get hurt as much by the fact that we're shocking a bunch. Maybe? I don't know. We'll see. And then we have a sideboard that is Thought Distortions and Shifting Ceratopses to beat Control, along with Fries and Noxious Grasps. More Assassin's Trophies for the food matchup, because I'm kind of scared of that. Similarly, Seraph Realm Eaters and Culling Rituals for the food matchups. The Fry and the Noxious Grasp also give us additional removal spells against the Grease Fang decks. And then we have Escape to the Wilds, which I'm envisioning for mid-range mirrors. I don't know if it's the best card for mid-range mirrors, but it's probably, pretty solid. I don't know. Anyway, let's find out. I'm still not entirely certain if we actually have enough, instants to play well with the modality, opportunity, cost aspect of Jun Charm, but I guess part of the reason that it's strong is that it plays the instant speed role well itself. It's its own alternatives. So maybe that isn't as big of a deal as I'm used to it being with effects like Archmage's Charm. So a Pioneer Adventures list that looked like it might be viable in Explorer with some changes. Yeah, I have seen Explorer Adventures lists that are already extremely viable on their own. The deck has to do some weird things to warp itself around the Greasefang matchup, but it feels very favored against basically everything else. I don't think I'm allowed to mulligan mana this good. I'm not sure how often I'm supposed to play Proving Ground turn 1 when I could Thoughtseize on turn 1. I feel like if I had 2 untapped lands here, I'd be willing to Thoughtseize on turn 1 and then just hold up a 2-drop on turn 2, and now I do have that. So I could do that. Is that the correct thing to do? Probably. My opponent's shocked here. I'm going to assume that means that they are probably playing Death Shadow. I don't think you would shock to hold up a Spell Pierce here. Oh, no. They're just holding up Consider. Okay. Well, in that case, Opponent, huh. I could take Make Disappear and then they get to consider. Don't love that. I'm probably just supposed to take the consider. Maximize information. I don't think leaving them with Make Disappear is too brutally punishing to me. Can you hit... Huh, this can't actually hit lands. But I assume the Field of Ruin deck, I'm not supposed to be hitting lands. I think that I'm just going to keep passing here, and I'm going to Riveteers Charm on the end of their turn. Unless I hit another land drop, which I did. Okay. So because I hit another land drop, I don't know that I want to Riveteers Charm this turn. I would rather Riveteers Charm on 4 mana, where if they counter the Riveteers Charm, then I can slam Elder Gargaroth, which they currently don't have a good answer for. I could play Scavenging Ooze, they Field of Ruin me, and then Fatal Push, which gets the Field of Ruin out of play before I have the opportunity to draw my Swamp accidentally. I could just jam the Bonecrusher Giant as a creature, which would probably get Fatal Pushed, but would stop them from getting double blue with Field of Ruin, which is a pretty big deal. So if they don't want to take that line, then they have to Make Disappear the Bonecrusher. I guess maybe that's actually what I'm supposed to do. Getting the Make Disappear out of their hand is a pretty big deal. This doesn't really make any difference if they have a blue source, but if they had another blue source they could play here, then I would have expected them to play it instead of the Swamp. So it looks like they have decided to go for the Field of Ruin Fatal Push line, which is totally okay with me because this is really putting pressure on their Sinister Sabotage blue source stuff. Or they might just decide that they were comfortable ignoring the Bonecrusher and not Fatal Pushing it here, which I think is also probably fine with me. That is what they decide. Okay. Well, then, opponent, do you have a different game plan for dealing with Bonecrusher Giant? No. Cool. Could play Scavenging Ooze here, don't feel like I want to. Do I play around Jwari Disruption or Censor? By shocking in Blood Crypt. I don't think that I do. So I think we just pass here then. Oh, Murderous Rider. Okay, are we in my instep? Yes, so I could resolve Riveteers Charm here if that's what I feel like is correct. That is probably what is correct. Cool. Land and more Riveteers Charms. My opponent's still missing land drops. Do not dislike that. So I want to cast Riveteers Charm to force them to counter it. I don't know that I want to let them get value out of Make Disappear, which kind of has me curious if I'm supposed to shock in Overgrown Tomb to force them to sabotage the Riveteers Charm. I think that's probably what I want to do. They could let this resolve. I think they actually are supposed to. I didn't really consider that. Because I've already made my land drop, and I'm only going to have 2 mana to work with anyway. But, sweet. I've got a card out of their hand, which I am more than happy with. Could play Scavenging Ooze here, would just get fatally pushed. Not terribly excited about that. Okay, so unfortunately we didn't get a Sinister Sabotage out of their hand, but I think I'm still fine with that. They do, in fact, have a Censor, which is probably going to wind up cycled. So we'll get rid of Sinister Sabotage. Don't really want to play Chandra here. I believe I just want to play Bonecrusher Giant. Try to get the Sabotage out of their hand. Yep. I could play Scavenging Ooze, which isn't great into the Fatal Push. Does get the Fatal Push out of their hand, though. But there's no value in getting Fatal Push out of their hand. Could hold up Assassin's Trophy. I don't know. I don't like playing the Scavenging Ooze because it doesn't really do anything productive. But I don't think holding the Assassin's Trophy does either. Yeah. Huh. So I guess I'm probably just going to cycle Proving Ground here. No, because I kind of need to hit my land drops anyway. That's inconvenient. Alright, well, let's play our land drop and pass. In a pinch, I can play Chandra next turn. Or I could pass holding up Riveteers Charm. That's also pretty interesting. Alright, well, I think that's a slightly better plan. This is such a weird pseudo-control mirror. Murderous Rider. Make disappear in play with Murderous Rider. Or Murderous Rider in play. Make disappear is a lot better with Murderous Rider in play. It'll be able to counter my Chandra, which I'm not excited about. But, okay. I kind of want them to counter this Riveteers Charm by sacking the Murderous Rider. Or just counter this Riveteers Charm in general, because then I can... What would I even do in that case? I guess I would Chandra uptick for mana, see what happens. Okay, sweet. So how do we want to do this? I can Chandra downtick on Murderous Rider, hold up Assassin's Trophy for the Hive. If they hit an untapped land, they can counter my Assassin's Trophy, which is kind of a bummer. Alternatively, I could Assassin's Trophy the Murderous Rider, then play Chandra. Uptick for either cards or mana to play Gargaroth. I'm in a really good spot if they can't answer Gargaroth, though, so it's almost tempting to just play that. Alright, I don't think I'm Assassin's Trophying here. Okay, the fact that I drew Fatal Push makes Chandra downtick on Murderous Rider a lot more appealing. No, because they can still make disappear to protect their Hive with a land. I think what it actually does is it makes Elder Gargaroth more appealing. Because if they kill Elder Gargaroth, then I can Fatal Push the Murderous Rider to deny them make disappear on Chandra. Because they won't have a creature in play, so they won't be able to sacrifice anything to it. And now the opponent's beginning to flood out, which is cool. Okay, Thought Distortion hits everything, but that's actually totally fine because I still have a Gargaroth in play. Hey, cool. Fatal Push. Love to see it. This is the part where I think I just start making 3/3s. I think that's better than the average card in my deck at this point. Memory Deluge. It draws a lot of cards. Alright, so let's see. Murderous Rider blocks 5 damage from Gargaroth, which leaves us doing 4 damage, which is lethal. That's pretty good. Mr. Godot, thanks for the sub. I greatly appreciate the support. Okay. 1 unknown card plus a land, huh? So we are allowed to attack. I believe I would like to just continue making 3/3s rather than draw a card. If my opponent tries to avoid lethal by Fatal Pushing my 3/3, then I get to Fatal Push their Murderous Rider for trample lethal instead. Boop, 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 boop. All right. So against blue-black control, huh? Shifting Ceratops is not as great, because black removal is a lot better against it than other colors of removal. Thought Distortion, probably still pretty good. That makes sense. Assassin's Trophy seems pretty bad. Fatal Push could still be fine. There is Hive the Eye Tyrant. I'm assuming it's probably not ideal, though. Similarly, Noxious Grasp and Fry, probably not as stellar against these cards. Noxious Grasp does hit Ashiok. No, it does not, because it doesn't hit blue. Fry would. Still, I have to feel like taxing all of their counterspells with Shifting Ceratops is probably what I'm supposed to be doing. And then, since I'm playing a deck with Thoughtseizes, I'm probably supposed to play Escape to the Wilds. Scavenging Ooze does not feel good against the Fatal Push deck, which I guess leaves me with my last card being either just playing Assassin's Trophy because it hits random stuff, or playing Fry because it's better against Planeswalkers. I'm going to assume that I'm supposed to just hit random stuff. That feels probably fine. Random Planeswalkers, random attackers that are attacking Chandra. Seems good. Ish. I'm assuming that I have to be pretty excited to play Escape to the Wilds against a Thought Distortion deck, right? Okay, well, Fable of the Mirrorbreaker. And lands. I'm not saying no to that. We will need more lands, but those can come in time. It's really inconvenient that there aren't any 2-mana removal spells that kill Greasefang and 4-mana Planeswalkers and Corvold. It would be easier if there was a spell that did all of those things. At instant speed, preferably. And was main deckable. So in this position, do I try to jam Fable of the Mirrorbreaker and likely get it countered, or do I play my third land and just pass and Riveteers Charm on their turn? Well, now I'm getting the feeling that I get to resolve Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, so that's pretty cool. This is why cantrips have a very high cost. And they also missed the land drop anyway. Cantrips. Life is rough. They took out the Fable of the Mirrorbreaker over the Riveteers Charm. I guess that maybe makes sense. I don't know if I agree with it, but I guess it kind of makes sense. Alright, let's see. What do I want to get rid of? Probably Bloodtithe Harvester? I'm not terribly interested in a 1-for-1 at the moment. I do kind of want lands. Maybe I should have gotten rid of an extra land there. I didn't really need them. Alright, so I could play Chandra here. Resolving Chandra is probably a good idea. They could have Spell Pierce, I guess. I could also resolve Riveteers Charm on the end of my turn. It's probably better to resolve Chandra. Okay, if that got Spell Pierced, it still wasn't the end of the world, really. It would just be a bummer.
Yup, you're going down.
Can I cast you? No. Regrettable. Alright, so we have Reflection of Kiki-Jiki flipping, an in-play Chandra, a Riveteers Charm in hand, and an Elder Gargaroth. I do wish I had one fewer land in hand, but it felt like guaranteeing that I was going to have 5 lands in hand when I had an Elder Gargaroth was worthwhile, but maybe I should view Elder Gargaroth against a deck that has as many theoretical hard removal spells for it as blue-black control, as less of a on-curve card, so it doesn't matter whether I have cards in hand for it or not. Yeah, I think that's probably correct. Okay, wait. Do I want to shock in a land so that if I hit a 5-drop off Chandra, I can play it? Yeah, I don't think my life matters, so I think that's what I want to do. This also means that I can play a Shifting Ceratops and give it haste, whereas if I didn't shock in a land, I couldn't, because I would have had to spend all of my green sources to cast it, and then the land I was going to play wouldn't be able to be a green source.
Oh, this
Nope,
is
just a
gonna
land.
hurt.
Okay. Well, then we get to pass holding up Riveteers Charm. And because I shocked, we're holding up Riveteers Charm in a way that doesn't get countered by Make Disappear. Shark Typhoon for 2. Oh no, my Chandra, it's being pressured. Sort of, slowly, but a little. Alright, Hive, that's fine. I don't even think it's worth killing this 2/2. I think drawing 3 cards is better than that. Aether Gust. So you're saying Chandra goes back on top of my deck. I don't really want to exile Chandra with Riveteers Charm because it's pretty expensive. So I think that I Riveteers Charm now. Ooh. I want to put Chandra on top. Yes. I would love to resolve Escape to the Wilds. Now I can play Escape to the Wilds around Jwari Disruption, or rather around Censor, which we've shown them to have by shocking. If I do that, I don't get to play the Den, which isn't super meaningful to me. Making enough land drops that Jwari Disruption or Censor isn't live after this point. I have another creature land already. Odds are good that Escape to the Wilds won't resolve, but if it does, we still get to play the Den anyway. Alright, sweet. Well, I don't get to play Elder Gargaroth next turn, I guess, but I'm pretty excited about getting to Thought Distortion. Oh, I don't get to play the Escape to the Wilds either? Jeez. What a wicked bummer. I mean, I'm probably still winning this regardless, but the most amusing part of this is that if they decide to play around Thought Distortion by, like, tapping out, I could still just play Escape to the Wilds. Alright, well, let's Thought Distortion. That makes their search for Escanta a lot weaker. I could have tried to play Chandra and then uptick Thought Distortion, but exposing myself to a counterspell that stops me from Thought Distortion just doesn't sound appealing. Yeah, okay. I'm kind of liking this general plan against control of be a mid-range deck that gets to keep playing mid-range threats and threaten card advantage and then have a top end that's Thought Distortion. Because, like, it forces control to play a draw-go game plan and then Thought Distortion just tears draw-go game plans apart. Alright, that's a good start. That's a pretty good start. I hope we get paired up against Jund Food, because I really want to test if this post-board plan against Jund Food has legs or not. This is not a keepable hand. This is a keepable hand? This is probably a keepable hand. I think I can just pitch Assassin's Trophy and this hand's reasonable. I don't think that in the dark I'm supposed to keep Assassin's Trophy aggressively. Alright, red-black midrange. I will take your Bonecrusher Giant on account of me not being afraid of Glorybringer when I have an Elder Gargaroth, and not being afraid of Bloodtithe Harvester when I have a Bonecrusher Giant. I believe that is correct. Ooh, good draw, good draw, good draw. So I could pass holding up Stomp to kill the Bloodtithe Harvester, or I could play Scavenging Ooze preemptively. Is there a world where they don't play Bloodtithe Harvester? I don't believe so. So they didn't have the Fatal Push to really punish me for this line. My line of thinking is that I can Bonecrusher Giant, stomp the Bloodtithe Harvester, and then immediately eat it with Scavenging Ooze to attack as a 3/3. Which, like, is enough of a reward for this line that I'm not punished for not holding up Stomp to answer the Bloodtithe Harvester. Exiling the Bonecrusher Giant, because if they have Kolaghan's Command, I'd rather them get back the Bloodtithe Harvester. If they had drawn push, I would have been punished, but I thought that the odds of that were relatively low. And that the amount that I got blown out by it wasn't terribly high. Them getting to get rid of their own creature here and deny me my Scavenging Ooze kind of bites. Yeah, drawing lands. Love to see it. Alright, well, let's keep attacking with the Scavenging Ooze, I guess. If they want to trade Graveyard Trespasser for Scavenging Ooze, I think I'm okay with that. I'm going to need to draw one more land so that I can slam this Elder Gargaroth, though. Otherwise, the Glorybringer is going to be a problem. Okay, cool. Chandra I can handle. It down ticks on Bonecrusher. So they are going to get to Glorybringer next turn, which doesn't matter now because I drew the land. So they could have, if they drew Stomp, I'm in a lot of trouble, I guess. Them having used the Chandra downtick means they can't Glorybringer and then downtick on Gargaroth, but they can uptick Chandra for mana, Stomp Gargaroth, play Glorybringer, exert it, and then I almost certainly lose. But if they don't have Stomp, it's very difficult for them to kill Gargaroth here. Harvester is not particularly scary because I have Stomp. Otherwise, it would represent them being able to kill Gargaroth with Sacrifice Harvester, Swing, Exert, Glorybringer. They would lose the Chandra in the meantime, but because of Stomp, getting to kill the Harvester here, they do not get to represent that with Glorybringer. Let's see. Would I rather have a 3/3 or cards? I feel like I would probably rather have 3/3s, alright? Probably. I am low on black sources, or red sources, so that's kind of a concern. Means that I don't get to do anything else with this turn, which is a bit of a disappointment, but Gargaroth is still pretty good. And now without the Chandra, it's very difficult for them to have the mana necessary to do multiple things to kill the Gargaroth. There are numerous main deckable cards that could just kill Gargaroth, but red-black doesn't usually play a huge amount of them. So what they can do is play Glorybringer and not attack, and then top deck a way to Stomp or Chandra the Gargaroth, but if they choose to do that, I get to attack a bunch of times. It's definitely a bummer that I wasn't able to play the Bloodtithe Harvester last turn, because that means I couldn't attack with the 3/3 into the Glorybringer, but the opponent chooses not to play the Glorybringer, which is an interesting choice. What does that mean? Well, certainly drawing the Assassin's Trophy makes me pretty insulated against, nearly everything. Oh, I just top decked the answer to Gargaroth. That's disappointing. Okay, well, yeah, it's a bummer. Still, I am getting to play to the board, and I get to trophy the Glorybringer here. I'm probably just going to be able to outcard advantage my opponent now. Fable of the Mirror Breaker not playing anything else. Alright, opponent, but that's kind of really, really, really slow. That is a absolutely delightful Thoughtseize. If my opponent just wants to sit here not playing Glorybringer, I am more than happy to punish them for it. Alright, opponent takes a bunch of damage. Opponent loses their Glorybringer. We play a proactive creature. We hold up removal. We are pretty happy with our life, I think. So, they have one blocker. Any 2 threats is lethal, meaning that they're forced to use a removal spell or animate a land. Okay, well, that's not a blocker. So we are good. Now they have to, wipe the board? How do you wipe my board at instant speed, opponent? Is that doable? Can you do that? I almost don't want to use a removal spell on the land. Oh, I guess they could, like, Animate Hall and then Fatal Push something to stay alive. So I am required to answer their creature land. This is the part where we concede? I don't know of how they could get out of this spot. Opponent also doesn't know how they could get out of this spot. Alright, so... Opponent has at least 2 basics, which makes the Assassin's Trophy plan less totally appealing. We're definitely playing Escape to the Wilds. That I'm confident in. I'm probably not playing Scavenging Ooze. Then I don't know what else to do. Are any of these cards good against Jund? I'm going to assume Assassin's Trophy is reasonable, if not exciting. I'm going to assume Fatal Push and Thoughtseize are probably good enough. Going to assume that Elder Gargaroth and Riveteers Charm are also good enough. I think this is the plan. We're basically playing the mirror, except we have Elder Gargaroths and Riveteers Charms, both of which seem probably stellar. I might not have a ton of answers for Planeswalkers, is the biggest problem. I guess that's what Assassin's Trophy is supposed to be for. Removal and Jund Charm don't work with Escape. I mean, removal doesn't work with Escape if the opponent has no board, but if the opponent doesn't have any board, then Escape to the Wilds is like, even if it whiffs on one thing, as long as it's like a 2-for-1, at worst, it's still an actively powerful thing to be doing when the opponent has an empty board. Oh, it goes all right. Retrieve sucks. You know what? We can do that. We can do that. How badly do I want to Thoughtseize on turn 1? I guess considering that I could top deck and untap red source to cast Stomp, probably relatively badly. Do not care about a Braid. Kind of care about Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Really care about Chandra. So I get 1 turn to draw a red source so that I can stomp Fable of the Mirror Breaker. No, I get 2 turns to draw a red source. Well, 1 turn to draw a red source to stomp Mirror Breaker on tempo. 2 turns to pair it up with a Fable. I'm kind of tempted to take the Chandra because it's the bigger threat. But I'm going to assume that it's better to get rid of Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Help me remember to grab socks after this game. What would you sub out for Assassin's Trophy if you hypothetically didn't want to use wildcards on it? I don't know. Eliminate's not bad. Strangle isn't bad. Alright, the lack of red sources could be becoming a problem. Okay, there's a red source. That's something. Now, unfortunately, our opponent can Chandra here, which I don't have a good answer to. Yeah. I mean, I guess I can just play my own Chandra. Maybe that's just good enough. Oh, I can't play my own Chandra. That's not good enough. Because I don't have double red. Playing Fable is unimpressive into a Braid. That's a bummer. Guess I just have to kill their Chandra. Yuck.
You and I are gonna. This'll be.
Ugh. Alright, so I imagine the opponent probably has to take Escape to the Wilds here. Maybe they don't think so, but I think so. Otherwise, yeah, they do think so. Okay, so I think I'm probably supposed to play Chandra into Fable, which is thankfully pretty strong.
Yup. You're going.
I don't want to play Gargaroth into Chandra downtick plus a Braid. Land for my opponent does damage to me but does not produce card advantage. Creature land, moderately annoying. I would like to discard the land and get something else. Fatal Push is interesting in the sense that killing Den protects our Chandra well. I could stomp Chandra, play Bonecrusher, hold up Fatal Push if I uptick Chandra. I could choose to wait on activating the Chandra until post-combat to see if my opponent abrades me. If they use the Abrade, I'm sort of interested in casting Elder Gargaroth. I don't think there's any benefit to doing this or to activating Chandra pre-combat. Okay, 2-2 gone. I could also uptick Chandra for mana, stomp Chandra, play Bonecrusher. Opponent can't Fatal Push Bonecrusher here, but they could abrade it again. I think I would probably prefer to try to go for card advantage in this spot. Bloodtithe Harvester. Okay. I'm down to cast that. Now, would I rather stomp the Chandra in this position? Or just... I guess there's no benefit to stomping the Chandra now at sorcery speed, so I might as well pass. And I don't want to hard cast the Bonecrusher Giant in this spot. I don't think Blitz of the Thunder Raptor is what you want, because it's not a card that can remove Greasefang on turn 3. Which is, I think, what your 2-mana removal needs to be capable of doing. Or what your 2-mana removal needs to be capable of doing as just the barrier to entry.
You're going down.
Alright, so we can't let Chandra ultimate, so if Bloodtithe Harvester doesn't connect with it, we bare minimum need to stomp it here at the end of turn. Which I think is what I'm willing to do. From their perspective, this means that they can Den of the Bugbear again. Or, well, now I'm not representing a removal spell for Den of the Bugbear attacking my Chandra, but that's fine with me. We uptick Chandra, see what it hits. It's a Bloodtithe Harvester. Okay. Again, maybe I'm supposed to just generally post-combat that. I don't know whether hitting Thoughtseize pre-combat actually matters at all. If they animate Den to block, I'm assuming I'm supposed to Fatal Push that, probably. Maybe I'm not. Maybe it's better to just get to play Bonecrusher Giant without shocking. Then again, maybe I would just rather cycle Overgrown Tomb here. Do I want to play Overgrown Tomb, though? Maybe I want to play Overgrown Tomb. Yeah, you know what? I think this is okay. If they have Glorybringer plus push, this kind of sucks for me, because they get to push my Bonecrusher at end of turn. Or actually, they get to push my Kiki at end of turn and then play Glorybringer, kill the Bonecrusher. Chandra downtick on the Bloodtithe Harvester. No, I guess that doesn't work, because I'm also threatening to ultimate Chandra. Well, the Glorybringer punches the Chandra, doesn't it? Okay, this is... you know, still the same thing, I guess. Yeah. No, not using the blood tokens is kind of nice because it forces their Chandra to downtick. Otherwise, my Bloodtithe Harvester can kill a Glorybringer here. Which means their Chandra only gets to be at 2 post-Glorybringer, so Glorybringer plus Chandra doesn't represent killing Gargaroth. Yeah. I don't know that I was, like, wicked ahead there, but I think that I'm mostly ahead. And if my opponent doesn't have anything, I'm very ahead. Ugh. Grab socks. Good call. So we played against a question mark control deck and red-black midrange. The red-black midrange matchup went basically the way I was expecting, where it's difficult for them to remove Gargaroth. And then we just have card advantage spells more than them. And the control matchup kind of, I guess, went the way I was expecting control matchups to work, which was cast 2-for-1s that get countered and then play Thought Distortion and win. So, you know what? I think this has been a solid showing to begin with. Opponent looks like they are playing either some sort of green-red creativity transmogrify list or blue-white control. It is the Creativity Transmogrify list. I guess they could just be playing, like, Teamer Elementals, too. Yeah, okay. It is, in fact, Teamer Elementals. So let's see. I would like to not let my opponent have a Risen Reef. Which looks like what I am going to have to do. I have no second black source to punch the Leafkin Druid, regrettably. So if my opponent hits an untapped land, they do get to play their Omnath or their Yasharn. They do not have the untapped land. They do have the Soul Guide Lantern. And now I have choices. I can Fatal Push the Leafkin Druid, which is pretty appealing. Would like to get another chance at drawing Thoughtseize to get rid of Omnath before they can play it, as letting them draw a card is not appealing. I don't think playing Fable to the Mirrorbreaker is very appealing when they could just play Yasharn. Oh, they can't play Omnath, actually, even with the Leafkin. Still don't think I want to let them play Yasharn, though. But if they hit an untapped land and they get a draw step towards it, Don't think I'm supposed to let them have the Leafkin. Why main deck a Lantern in an Elementals deck? Because the Elementals deck has a very, very difficult time with playing main deck answers to Greasefang. It's got a good matchup against pretty much everything else, but Greasefang specifically is rough. I don't think playing Soul Guide Lantern and Yasharn at the same time is what you're supposed to be doing. But, oh wow, and they hit the Secluded Courtyard? So they just get to play Omnath before their land next turn? That's harsh. That's pretty harsh. And Soul Guide Lantern is just one of the lower opportunity cost cards you can play in an Elementals deck that has awkward mana that answers Greasefang. Do I want to make this block in the interest of getting to Fatal Push the Omnath? Do I have any good alternatives for how I plan to kill this Omnath otherwise? Making treasures doesn't matter very much with Yasharn in play anyway? Yeah, I think so. Do I care about this Bloodtithe Harvester at all? I don't think so. I really don't like lands, though. That sucks. Huh. Do I fire up Den and attack just to get a 1/1? I don't really want to Assassin's Trophy the Yasharn. Probably supposed to hold that for an Omnath. They've already gained a lot of life, so like trying to pressure their life total doesn't seem super effective. I think we just play the land drop and say go. Zendikar is royal. Alright. Risen Reef combos. Cute. Turn into 2/2s, which do block Den pretty well. Oh, if I was going to Assassin's Trophy the Yasharn, I needed to do it before Zendikar's Royal was in play. That was an error. Although there's a somewhat real chance they don't have any more basics. Still, mistake. Kind of am okay just letting the Yasharn happen for the time being. Maybe I'm supposed to be more protective of my life total? I don't know. I think I want to hold on to lands now that I can pitch them. Yeesh. Alright, Escape to the Wilds is really bad for me. They get to abrade my reflection. Yeah. Certainly regretting not Assassin's Trophying the Yasharn in response to the Zendikar Royal, because handling a 2-2 is a little difficult right now. Did they just play the Plains from hand rather than play one of the Ketria Triumphs? That seems incorrect. Alright, basically I have to do this at this point. Wow. 3 basics in opponent's list, huh? Yowzers. Deck. How many creatures we got in the graveyard? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so untapped green land has a purpose. Yeah, true that Fable Passage probably makes sense. When the opponent finds their next escape to the wilds, I'm gonna have some difficulty here. Well, at least I have stuff to do in the meantime. Do I want to hold on to Scavenging Ooze at all? It makes the opponent lose a lot on every attack. But maybe I'm supposed to race? I think having the Bonecrusher makes this attack okay. Especially because, if they are tempted to stack block, then I get to hyper punish them with the Stomp. But if they block with a 2-2, that's pretty much fine. I believe I want to hold on to this in case I draw another Reflection of Kikijiki. So I can't attack with a 2-2 into the Bonecrusher without just getting it eaten. That's inconvenient.
Get ready to meet my flames. Everyone knows the bigger explosions are more fun.
Alright, well, I guess I'm taking 8 damage because that's Chandra. My opponent's life is a little hard to handle. Oh, Escape to the Wilds is a really good card. Also, I kind of flooded miserably. But mostly it's difficult to beat Escape to the Wilds. So let's see, what can we do here? Omnath is a huge amount of life gain that's difficult for me to handle. I definitely want Noxious Grasp. I don't really want Assassin's Trophy very much. I don't have any bad cards I can cut, really. I guess Scavenging Ooze isn't very exciting. Is Shifting Ceratops remotely appealing? There's a lot of stuff that it can't get blocked by, but I don't know that that's, like, actually good at all. I don't have access to anywhere near as much synergy and ramp, so, like, Escape to the Wilds might be good, even if it's not as good as what they do, though. I think it's probably likely that I'm supposed to play Escape to the Wilds. I'm probably supposed to play Fry. It hits Omnath, it hits Yasharn, hits Risen Reef. That's probably enough. Thoughtseize isn't particularly impressive against elementals. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I feel like Thoughtseize hitting Risen Reef or Escape to the Wilds is still, like... It's not exciting, but you're probably required to play it. Like, just because they're good against Thoughtseize doesn't mean Thoughtseize is bad. Fatal Push. It's very difficult to play into a Yasharn list, but it's probably still right. I'm pretty uninterested in Assassin's Trophy, even though I also think that I'm, like, probably supposed to be playing it regardless. Unsure. Okay. This is something. Well, happy to take a Risen Reef away from the opponent. If they want to sit there with a 6-mana Chandra, they can. I kind of want to cycle Ziatora's Proving Ground, so I think I will. Not necessarily on turn 3. I think on turn 3 we're just jamming Bonecrusher. But maybe on turn 4? Well, maybe on turn 3 we're just stomping Tangled Florahedron. So maybe on turn 5. Ugh. Alright, well, at least we kill a Risen Reef. Am I ever going to get the opportunity to cycle this Proving Ground, or should I play it? I actually think that having drawn Castle Locthwain, I'm a lot better off playing the Proving Ground. Maybe I'm supposed to play an untapped land this turn, though? So I think emptying my hand to allow me to start activating Castle Locthwain is pretty appealing. Soul Guide Lantern, not really relevant. I'm actually a little surprised they didn't have the capacity to cut that for something more impactful. Alright, play Bonecrusher Giant, which presumably makes the opponent play Chandra and then -3 to kill the Bonecrusher. Yup. Then we Assassin's Trophy the Chandra, play another Bonecrusher. Don't love that Assassin's Trophy lets them cycle Soul Guide Lantern. I guess it doesn't matter with Fable Passage though, does it?
Well, fresh out of fuel.
Wonder how many basics they have. Cool. Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, delightful. And we get to start playing things proactively. Don't love that they presumably have more Awakened Infernos in their deck, because that is a card that can answer Gargaroth. Opponent decides to activate Soul Guide Lantern before fetching with Fabled Passage, which implies they have an Omnath in hand already. Regretful. I think you're supposed to fetch with Fabled Passage in response to the Omnath trigger in that spot. Alright. Thoughtseize isn't horrible. Ooh, alright. Fatal Push is nifty. I actually like that quite a bit. One might describe that as actually kind of reasonable. Let's get rid of Omnath. Let's attack with both of these, holding full control. Sack the treasure and blow up the Omnath. And the Leafkin Druid blocks the 2/2. Could activate Castle Locthwain here. Meaningful if I draw into a land. Opponent's not playing a deck with Thoughtseize, so there's no real downside that I can think of. Yeah, I think this is just free to do now. Okay. Do not dislike Bonecrusher Giant. Syndicar's Royal, sure. Starts making 2/2s. Sure. They want to make a 2/2 now. That means that Risen Reef top decks are weaker, so I'm all for that. Oathkin Druid, sure. Ziatora's Proving Ground is cyclable at least, although that isn't actually that appealing with Castle Locthwain in play. Make some attacks. I'm presuming they double block Bonecrusher. I get to interrupt the double block with a Stomp. Then play Bonecrusher, which is cool. With the opponent top decking, I feel pretty good about just jamming Bonecrusher onto the board. It's pretty weak against a Chandra, though, and I think that might be what I'm supposed to most play around in this spot. The alternative to playing Bonecrusher is just activating Castle Locthwain. The scariest thing at the moment would be Risen Reef with Zendikar's Royal in play. Does playing Bonecrusher play around Risen Reef top deck? No? Alright, well, let's just go ahead and activate the Castle Locthwain then. Zendikar's Royal is not typical in Omnath lists that are more frequently adventures. It is a combo piece with Risen Reef that has seen play prior, because it makes Risen Reef hitting a land into another Risen Reef trigger, which can, just keep going. So if you have multiple Risen Reefs and multiple Zendikar Royals, it can just kind of like flip your entire deck into play. But it's also not, like, excellent. Usually doesn't see too much play just because it's kind of more expensive and you have lots of ways to spend your mana with the deck. Yay, Elder Gargaroth. That's pretty good. I would love to get to put an Elder Gargaroth into play and then make a copy of it with Reflection of Kiki-Jiki and then attack with it. Could attack with everything. They put Omnath on Bonecrusher. Take 8. Yeah, alright. I kind of like that plan. And then I get to play the Bonecrusher. What do I do with this? Do I make a 3/3? Doesn't play super well around Chandra. I think I would rather draw a card to try to find an answer to the Kihira. We did not. Oh, yeah, actually, like, if we hit a Stomp or a Fatal Push, then I could kill the Omnath here, so it was super correct to draw. Is it worth shocking to play this Bonecrusher without using the treasures? Makes drawing Fatal Push stronger. I still have the Goblin Shaman, so I'm able to use Fatal Push next turn anyway. What makes me think Gargaroth is good in Explorer? It's difficult for most decks to answer right now. Ugh. Just the stat line's pretty good, and it's a thing you can tap out for that doesn't get immediately hard countered by your opponent playing Grease Fang and jamming Helion or Parhelion attack into you, because Gargaroth can block the Angel token while not, like, losing too much life. This is a lot of blockers for my opponent. Kihira's pretty annoying. Am I supposed to Thoughtseize here? One unknown card for my opponent. If I pass the turn at 8 life, I have 2 Gargaroth blocks available, 2 other blocks available. Leaves me taking 6, 8, 10, 12. I can gain 6, so I'm not technically dead. Except they can trigger Omnath pre-combat. So 8, let's go to 14. 2, 8, 12. Yeah, it does leave me dead. Actually, it leaves me dead whether or not I Thoughtseize. I guess I could swing with Gargaroth now? No, because then they just kill it. Huh. I don't think I can Thoughtseize. Wish I had drawn a Fatal Push. That would make life a lot easier here. We know they have at least an island left in the deck, so they have a target for that Fabled Passage unless they end up drawing it. Does take 3 land drops to do damage with Omnath. Okay. Do we have outs we can draw to? Yeah, we do. Removal gives me a lot of options here. Things that kill Kahira specifically. I also, if they don't attack, get to just throw Elder Gargaroths at their face, which is a form of value. Leafkin's 4 power, right? 4 or more creatures. Oh, okay. Block, 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 block. So this is taking 6, 10, 12. Believe I just want to gain life then. This is the attack I was afraid of if they had done damage with Omnath pre-combat for exactly this reason. But since they didn't do that, okay. So they trip block Gargaroth. I'm kind of hurting. I'd love to find a removal spell to get to blow them out of doing that. I guess they can quad block to play around one removal spell. I could choose not to attack with the Gargaroth, just make a copy and only attack with the copy, which is playing a little slow. I think I'm willing to pay for information here. Oh yeah. Happy, happy, happy to do that. Okay, so if we copy Gargaroth, attack with the copy, gain 3 life up to 5, make another blocker. No, so block, block. Yeah, I think I just have to not attack. They don't end up activating Fabled Passage. Why did we not use Castle at any point on that turn? Last turn? Did I have the ability to at the end of their turn and forgot about it? Wow, okay. I was not expecting Kiki-Jiki Gargaroth to be enough to win that game. Oh, I didn't want to do it on my main phase because I was worried that losing the life would be too meaningful, and that tapping out at sorcery speed would not leave me representing enough options. Maybe that's wrong, though. I'm kind of really uncertain about Bloodtithe Harvester. I think that I'm just supposed to jam a bunch of Assassin's Trophies instead of it, which isn't, like, horribly appealing, but is probably correct. Especially on the draw against Risen Reef. I think I want more answers to Risen Reef. I guess Bloodtithe Harvester is also an answer to Risen Reef, which maybe actually makes it better on the draw than on the play. It's really underwhelming against Yasharn is the thing. Guess I would have lost that game if I didn't have the Assassin's Trophy to kill the Chandra? I don't know. We'll give it a shot. I don't think it's correct. I think not having access to Fatal Push and Thoughtseize means that this deck just doesn't have enough cheap ways to spend its mana to really utilize the Gargaroth thing. Like, you could be super aggressive, but I don't think Gargaroth is a great aggressive card. I think you kind of need to be a mid-range deck at the least to make Gargaroth worth playing. Do I care about this Omnath? I assume I care about this Omnath. Yeah, I mean it draws cards. I'm probably supposed to just kill things that draw cards. Yeah, Fatal Push, when you have a bunch of ways to enable it, is pretty strong. It's like one of the strongest parts of the red-black deck. I think that it makes me pretty happy with where this deck is at. So I can play the Fable of the Mirror Breaker. They abrade me. Yeah. I could pass holding up Riveteers Charm. I guess I kind of like passing holding up Riveteers Charm. They have a lot of 4-drops I'd like to kill. And if I don't kill a 4-drop or a Risen Reef, then I can draw 3, and that's probably still good. Well, hitting 2 Gargaroths is not good, unfortunately. But, I mean, we still cycled Riveteers Charm because we hit 1 land, so that's something. Do I want to play Fable of the Mirror Breaker? I don't really want to play Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Opponent doesn't have white mana, so it's a lot less likely that we'll Assassin's Trophy something meaningful. There's a really good chance the opponent's just going to escape to the wilds next turn, and I probably can't beat that. I'm really, really, really bummed that the opponent didn't play a 4-drop last turn. If I had just gotten a Riveteers Charm, a 4-drop, and then drew Gargaroth, I would be in such a fantastic position. Alright, let's get rid of a bunch of lands. Alright, well, not a terrible spot for a Thoughtseize. How am I beating Escape to the Wilds ×2? I'm definitely taking Escape to the Wilds. I don't know how I'm beating Escape to the Wilds ×2. Maybe I'm lucky and they decide to do something that isn't cast Escape to the Wilds. Maybe I get lucky and they just totally whiff on Escape to the Wilds. That's... Alright, that's kind of a whiff. Did they just play a land from hand rather than from exile? Huh, okay, I'll take it. Do I want to get rid of any of these? No, not really. So now they probably play Chandra and then downtick to wipe my board. I'd probably Assassin's Trophy the Chandra. Well, no, I don't need to actually. I can just den the Chandra. Well, that's fine. What draws you to Assassin's Trophy? Nothing in particular. I'm just kind of interested in testing it out. Land bases in this format tend to be super greedy, which potentially makes Assassin's Trophy valuable. Oh, Escape to the Wilds. I want to play that so bad. I wish I had Assassin's Trophy now. Okay, opponent, do you have a Braid? Oh gosh, I can't even cast the Assassin's Trophy if you have a Braid. I wonder if I should have just played around a Braid by Assassin's Trophying. Okay, they don't have it. Small mercies. Okay. More Chandras is fine. Uptick. Yeah. So regrettably I can't Assassin's Trophy that. But I can play Escape to the Wilds and then try to Assassin's Trophy it. Taking a little bit of a gamble here. I think that it's correct. Bit of a bummer that I can't Thoughtseize the Assurn out of their hand, but we can live. So I can stomp the Kahira and then Chandra downtick on Yasharn. Have to be sort of mindful about Thoughtseize because I do have the Chandra emblem, but now that I've got Elder Gargaroth, I can afford to be a little less concerned. Oh yeah. None of that nonsense. Then we play the Chandra. Then we make the opponent think that I've misplayed.
If you play with fire, you're gonna get burned.
Alright, so we lose the Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, but our 4-for-1 Escape to the Wilds still pretty solid, and now we try to dodge the opponent top-decking Escape to the Wilds. Which we have done successfully. Ooh, Escape to the Wilds. That's a pretty good card. I'm really tempted to play that, but I also think that I'm probably supposed to cast Elder Gargaroth Assassin's Trophy instead.
This'll be easy.
So I think we play Elder Gargaroth, Bonecrusher. Yeah. Alright, turns out Elder Gargaroth, still pretty good. I am legitimately kind of shocked we won that.